Hey everyone, and welcome to the Rebel AI podcast. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have technologist and key member of the Rebel AI community, Ryan Varley, on with us. Ryan, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Great stuff. And so let's jump straight into our first regular question, which is, of course, what's your technology origin story? Were you bitten by a technology radioactive spider at some point, or how did you get into all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean it's maybe a long one, but I think it probably first started when personal computers when we were younger were like not really a thing. Like I remember it coming out. I remember getting our first computer in the house. So it probably started there when my mum got that. And it didn't probably take too long. I probably at the ages of I don't know, maybe 12 or early teens, I started getting into programming. So that was when Um, I built a few websites. I started using PHP, building a few backend things, dabbled in some text-based games.
Hmm.
Um, and then I kind of lost it for a few years. I think I lost it for a few years over maybe parts of college and into university where I did a degree in physics and biology.
Mm.
Um, but then I found it again towards the end. So I was at UCL with a 4-year degree, and the last year was a master's year. So in
Mm.
your master's year, you had to do a big project, and the big project I did was trying to repeat some work from a paper that tried to detect molecules in the atmosphere of a planet outside our solar system.
Ooh.
So it was using data from the Hubble Space Telescope. You had to transform it and do lots of data stuff in primarily in Python. So I found it again there and kind of just like did that whole project in Python, got really good at Python, um, started doing the data analysis again, and yeah, that's where it really then latched on, if you were in that bite. And I followed that up with I sort of continued that project into a PhD at UCL as well.
Right.
Again, Python, data analysis, machine learning started to come in a bit there as well.
Mhm.
Um, so a PhD in astrophysics, and as I've seen from my former colleagues, what happens with a PhD in astrophysics is you either are very theoretical
Mhm.
and you kind of go into finance, or you're more like coding and software and you go into data science.
Right.
So that's where I headed into data science at my first company.
Wow. Oh, that's really, really interesting. And I don't know if you knew this, but my first degree, my undergraduate degree was an astrophysics degree. And then I went into machine learning in the PhD. Wow. Yeah. And well, exoplanets. I mean, this is uh, an area that I'm just so excited because when I was growing up, there weren't any exoplanets. It was none had been detected, and of course now we know that they exist. And have you continued to follow this? I mean, I know this is still, I think, an area of research is to try and detect like signs of molecules of life in exoplanet atmospheres. How's that going these days?
Yeah, loosely followed. I did have a period where I kind of like after my PhD, I was like done with it for a while. Like
Right.
almost couldn't talk about it for a while. And I found it
Fair,
again
fair enough.
later. But yeah, I think when I started, it was right at the boom. So
Mm.
Kepler had just gone up, and Kepler is a space telescope that was dedicated to try and finding planets.
Right.
And I think we very quickly went from around 500 when I first, like 500 known planets when I first
Mm.
started,
Hmm.
to there was multiple thousands by the end.
Yes.
And it was, I think that's just continued to go up and up and up. And I was actually did some early work on as part of the Echo space mission,
Okay.
which is a dedicated telescope to actually space telescope to look at molecules and atmospheres. That
Wow.
didn't get selected by ESA, but it did get revived into a project called Ariel, and I think
Okay.
that's only a few years off launching.
Oh, okay.
It's super exciting to see that out there getting results.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I guess we would have if they found the molecules of organic molecules of a particular kind on exoplanets, we would have heard about them. That I'm just reminded of. I think there was a Welsh a group based in a Welsh university, possibly University of Cardiff, who were maybe finding levels of methane or something in the how do you say it? The Venuvian atmosphere that I saw a documentary on a few years back. But I'm not really following the news. I mean, maybe the aliens are already amongst us, and I just don't know. But that's a fascinating area, which then took you data science, machine learning, and then onto a first company. To the extent that you can share, I'm really interested to hear about. Yeah, how that having established you obviously established your credentials with a PhD, doing the Python, doing the ML, doing the data science. What was it like moving into industry then?
Yeah, I think my career is probably defined by seizing opportunities when they arrive
Oh yeah.
and choosing opportunities kind of based on where I thought I would kind of like learn the most.
Oh
Even
really?
the PhD was a little bit like that. Like the PhD, I didn't think I wanted to do one, but my
Mm,
supervisor talked to me after my master's project, and I thought it'd be a good idea and that I'd learn a lot. And towards the end of the PhD, uh, someone called Kim came in to give a talk about something she was launching called Science to Data Science, which is a sort of a
oh yeah.
boot camp to get PhDs into the data science world. And
Right.
I listened and I applied for that and got it, and it was like a month long intensive project
Right.
where I worked with a company called Growth Intelligence, which is happens to be where I my first job was. So
Ah, right.
you know, I've sort of talked before about like how you sort of make your own luck a little bit. Like
Mm,
with that project, you got to choose your preferences. And I remember like going through all the companies thinking like, I want to do like machine learning, I want to do data analysis, I want to do like Python stuff. So
mm,
we're going through all the companies, seeing what they do, and then choosing a few that I thought were good, and then
mm.
aligning my preferences on the application form to that.
Right.
So just little things like that that kind of like help you find your own luck in the world. But I landed at doing that project, did really well. Like with our project, it was like four of us. Really enjoyed it, and then I started work there. So it was a small startup, like 30 people, and
Okay.
we were trying to optimize B2B telemarketing. So that
Okay.
doesn't sound like super interesting on its own, but it
Mm,
was like a real problem where you had companies like health insurance or parcel companies, and they would phone up like 100 businesses and they
right.
would sell to one of the 100.
Mm,
So if you could make that they sell to two in 100 calls,
right.
that's a 2x improvement. That's huge.
Yes.
And they were just using these really crude lists. So they would like buy a list from a big company like Experian. They'd say
Right.
like every company in the UK that sort of matches this. But what we did is go say, give us your call history. We
Mm-hmm.
will then take signals from all the companies that exist
Mm,
in the UK, and then we will see if we can find things using machine learning that predict whether you'll
right.
the call will land or not. And obviously, there's a lot of external factors that affect that. But remember, we only have to go from one in 100 to two in 100, or even to be honest, 1.3 in 100.
Yes.
Like these sort of small increases are huge.
Sure.
So this was like when machine learning was like starting to get big in industry, and it was super exciting because as a smaller company, you got to do everything. You got to
Mm,
speak to the customers. You had to do the data analysis yourself. You had to do the machine learning. You had
yes.
to improve all the tooling we had, the data pipelines. We had to try and find new sources of data and turn that into features.
Right.
Uh, so I think that really set me up there to have like a really good understanding of like product and how companies work and interact with the different departments, how to do like the generalist data science stack, like from end to end data pipelines to deploying onto the site, and that was just like a hugely valuable foundation experience for me.
Oh wow. Yeah, sounds amazing. Yes, and I'm well. There's a couple of threads there that I mean, narcissistically connect with some of my own experiences. But you were talking there, one about this process of the telemarketing of like, they're obviously reaching out to these many organizations trying to get that one lead. Um, you were talking about the process of yourself trying to make, which is the right company for me, and sort of going through right here are all the companies where can I have
Yeah.
the biggest learning opportunity. And actually, so for me, the transition between astrophysics and machine learning came from in my second year in astrophysics degree, I wrote to 200 different space research labs in the US. And this is like before we had the internet. I managed to get this list from the UK Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, and I like printed out all of these labels and basically just sent my CV to these things and managed to get. I did like a summer internship in the Space Power Lab, a NASA research lab in deepest Alabama, and it was there that I first encountered a series of someone gave me a book of papers that was all about neural networks. First time I ever heard of it, and that then changed the courses and what I ended up doing for my PhD. But there's something about that. It's yeah. I mean, I keep doing that. I think in life, a lot of people maybe sort of waiting for the opportunities to come or what have you. But I think you kind of got to put yourself out there and and try and make something happen. No, that's fantastic. And then separately, you've got there the experience that you had in the company, and these small startups are fascinating for that. But it also sounds like the boot camp was quite important in that transition, as it actually introduced you to a company in that space in the first place.
Yeah, the boot camp was hugely important. For a few reasons. One, like the hardest part of getting into industry was like as a PhD was like demonstrating that you don't have any industry knowledge, you don't have any
Yeah.
business knowledge. And although I think it was much easier to do that transition when I did it, like it's probably like nearly 10 years ago now,
Mm.
but um, it was still difficult because companies wanted people with experience. Like they always want people with
Right.
experience. And that workshop gave you a month working with a company to basically show them, no, I am good. I can add value. I am, good at working with. Like it's a month long interview. You never get that. Um, and obviously that's really good for the company because they never get to interview people for that long either.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't get a job with the company that you did a project with,
Mm.
lots of the other companies and there was other ones that didn't do projects came in as well. So there
Mm.
was a lot of opportunity to help you land that first job. And because it was based on a campus in a university in London for a
Mm.
month,
Mm.
you also were living with and talking to other like PhDs in data science
Right.
people. And so you met like 80 different people that
Wow.
you now like obviously is a network for the rest of your career.
Mm.
Like I see them now, taking different paths and some
Mm.
went back into academia, some are like CTOs or running their own company, some are,
Cool.
heads of data science or other stuff. So you end up like seeing everyone around you grow, which is obviously a useful network to have as well.
Wonderful. And is that boot camp still going?
It is still going. I think it's virtual now.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The obviously the I think COVID, like a lot of
Yeah.
things, made it go virtual, and then it stayed that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've advised it for a few people who are struggling to get that first job, just because anything you can do to kind of get that little bit of experience or get ahead, I think is really important in a difficult market, and the market is pretty difficult right now.
Yes, yes. Well, and it's because I don't know if you know, I ran a coding boot camp called Makers Academy for a year and a half, and it was that actually my transition because I'd been mainly in academia, and I was I'd done various industry projects, but I was struggling to make real connections with industry. But rather than go to a boot camp, I thought, nah, I'm going to run a boot camp, and that actually, helped me. Well, actually, that sprang me by a slightly circuitous route, but I think it. Yeah. Anyway, that's another
Did you find
story.
like it really helped improve your skills? Because I know a few people that did something similar where they joined like as an instructor on an existing boot camp because they were like, I just want to spend some time really
Yes.
learning the data science fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
So they did that and they were like they came out of it like they were teaching it, but
Mm-hmm.
they got a lot of value from doing it.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think it's there's a great Terry Pratchett quote where it says, the teacher always learns more than the students, and then this is one of them their Wizards Academy, and I think one of the wizards says you'd have to have prefrontal lobotomy to learn less than my students or something like that. Maybe that's Douglas Adams, but anyway, yeah, yeah, it's yes, I think often yeah, it's well, it's really as it's dangerous to be the teacher who doesn't know anything at all. At the same time, the pressure to learn is then because you feel responsible for creating the best learning experience for your students. Yeah, oh, that's right. We'll try and get a link in the show notes to that to data science bootcamp. Sounds fantastic, right? And so then it's been data science, machine learning all the way. I guess you've helped a succession of companies, you know, use machine learning and data science to their advantage, in the marketplace. Is that how we would summarize the next stage?
Yeah, so like the first job was like almost a progression from a junior data scientist to a senior data scientist.
Right.
By the end of that, I was running like leading projects and I was kind
Mm-hmm.
of ready to kind of become a team lead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So another opportunity popped up. I was sort of considering my options, and I was also thinking about moving back. So I was living in London at the time. I was thinking of moving back to the northeast
Mm-hmm.
because I'd lived in London throughout university, and then a bit through
Right.
my PhD, and then through the first job. And actually, one of the people that worked at STDS, someone called Neil, he reached out to me and said, like, "Are you interested in joining a Bitcoin trading startup?"
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Not really."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Well, what are you interested in?" And I said, "I'm thinking about moving up north. The same story I just said here." And I was looking for a team lead, and he went, "Oh, I've just as part of STDS, I've just talked to a company based in Middlesbrough, near
Mm,
where you're talking about, that are looking for a team lead.
right.
And he said, I'll introduce you if you want. So he did. And I talked to them. They were called Carbon.
Mm,
It was a data management platform in ad tech. So from marketing technology to advertising technology.
mm,
And yeah, I talked to them, and it was the opportunity to run the data science team, take over from the CTO who was managing that team directly before.
mm,
And it was also an opportunity to work with big data. So previously, I was working with big data to an extent. We were dealing with millions of web pages, and web pages
mm,
are quite big, so you end up with quite a high volume. But this was going from like millions of data to hundreds of millions or billions of data points,
right, right.
and dealing with 250 gigabytes a month of one data set, of which there were then
Mm,
many,
mm,
and having to join these together. So I got like a lot better at data pipelines, got a lot better at Spark, and the
mm,
challenges of big data and more real time systems and stuff like that.
sure.
So there was a bit of machine learning in that job, and we pushed a lot of data features. But that was almost me learning how to be a sort of a head of data science, which my
Right,
title ultimately became there, and learning a lot of data engineering,
right. Yes.
pushing on from growth intelligence.
Absolutely. And you were starting to manage. Did you have any specific training in management, or what was it the usual story of you've been good at doing data science or sort of that the technical side, and as you're sticking around, suddenly you start being given responsibilities to help guide other people. Is that?
Yeah, it was a bit of that, and I remember at the one of the questions I was asked in that interview was, uh, "How would you handle conflict in a team?"
Oh yeah.
And that question has haunted me in pretty
Mm,
much every interview because I don't answer that question well, even though I think I'm very good at that one, which is maybe something we can come back to later.
yeah.
Um, but it was to an extent. So I'd already started to mentor someone at Growth Intelligence. So I think I was starting to be ready for that leap, but I
Right.
didn't have any formal training. I think the maybe my main advantage is I've been quite good over my career at observing others and
Right.
really sort of mentally making note of the things I think people did well and things I think people did badly.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the people that, managed me, what did I really like about what they did? What did I not like about what they did? And then
Mm,
sort of incorporating that into what I do. So I kind of learned from everyone who's ever managed me, like straight all the way back, like to my PhD,
right.
and tried to incorporate the best and remove the worst, and then just operate like a real strong culture of feedback and trying to be very self-aware and self-improvement to just accelerate that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's wonderful, and connects strongly with, of course, Ian's motivation for the Rebel AI community, which is all about leadership in data science. And yeah, I mean, well, I mean, that's you've already given us a kind of like potted way of becoming great at managing a team. Is there something? I guess I presume you're interested in the Rebel AI community. Was I don't know, getting even more examples? It sounds like you were already on top of it. Was there a feeling that you could? What did you feel you could get in addition from the Rebel AI community to help you with your data science leadership?
Yeah, I think you can always do better. I did in the early days of um, Carbon think I need some peers. So there were some
Mm,
peers within the company, like people that were managing other teams, that I started to talk to more about leadership stuff. But I thought I needed more, especially in the data science side, because
right.
there's a lot of challenges with data science about like how you communicate data science projects. They're very different to engineering projects in terms
Mm,
of
mm, mm.
feasibility. Like I've rarely had an engineering project where we've come back and gone, this is impossible, or it's going to take a year and we might not solve it. But that
Mm,
that happens a lot in the data science side.
right, right, right.
And so I decided to try and seek out other data leaders that I could find. And
Mm,
I went to a meetup in Newcastle, a data science meetup. And on that first meetup, one of the speakers was a data science team lead.
right.
I spoke to him afterwards, and he had a friend there who was also a data science team lead. So we
Mm.
actually formed a little group, and we met sort of
Ah,
once a month, which was good at first. COVID again, kind of
yeah.
it slowed that group down. We still have a WhatsApp chat, but we were
Mm,
meeting regularly before then, and I
right.
thought that was really helpful. like just being able to bounce ideas off each other and speak about our problems. Because I was on top of some things, but
Mm.
not everything, and they were on top of opposite things or complementary things. And being able to share that experience was massive. So obviously with Rebel,
Yeah.
when Ian approached me, I was like, I already kind of have a group like this, which is quite small and not very active anymore.
Mm.
The idea of having a bigger one with more people that is active was sort of a really exciting prospect because, as I said at the beginning, I've learned most of my stuff through other people.
Right.
So having a group to learn things from is probably my main goal to get better.
Yeah, yeah, no, well, and I think you're touching on a really important thing there. I think Ian also mentioned it the other week is about the communication with the peers. It can be, you know, in an individual enterprise company organization, you're collaborating with your relative peers, the people above you, the people below you, depending on how is it servant leadership or is it the other way around? But there are you can't talk about all of your fears and concerns equally to everybody else in the existing organization because sometimes your fears and concerns are about them and it's not fair on people to like unload half finished thoughts or what you're struggling with. You can particularly as a leader, if you perhaps express too much doubt then that can cause other people to worry that things are careening out of control. So not that I mean I think it is also extremely important not to be some like projecting some unrealistic cast iron. You need to be human. You need to show that you can fail and forgive yourself, and all model all the good ways of giving and receiving feedback. But yeah, having peers who don't have any vested interest in what's going on in your company, being able to talk about workshop different situations, so on, extremely valuable. Yeah, no, great stuff. Yeah, it's and so that's and I'm very excited. You're a very active member of the Rebel AI community, and the really enjoy your participation in all the different sessions that we have. I mean, I guess I'm tempted to move us on towards this new change in things are now becoming very AI. I mean, it's in some ways it's a bit of a buzzword that's been added. Your story of from astrophysics to data science and machine learning and getting involved in companies and getting better at leadership almost doesn't need a mention of AI. But Ian chose rather than Rebel Data Science, chose Rebel AI because it is the hot thing at the moment. You've been doing this data science stuff for the last 10 years. How is AI affecting what you do, or is it just it's not it's just a word that's been applied and you're doing the same old stuff and facing the same old problems?
Yeah, so I guess to round things out, like after another 3 years, I moved on to Bowclips,
Hmm.
which is an education technology startup.
Right.
And the AI boom happened when I was there. So during that
Mm.
time there, I moved from being a head of data science to a VP of technology,
Right.
and I'm kind of doing the CTO role. And AI hit at that time, and I was still
Mm.
directly managing the team. So for me, AI is very, I kind of accepted that term alongside large language models.
Okay.
And people had been using AI to say for machine learning since I was at Growth Intelligence, and I'd always resisted it.
Yes.
Um, I do actually remember the moment I accepted it was when we were in the middle of an acquisition.
Hmm.
As part of an acquisition to a non-UK company, we had to declare to the UK government if we were doing any AI.
Oh, really?
Talking
Right.
to the lawyers and getting the definition of AI, and the definition of AI was basically machine learning. So I was like,
Right.
okay, well, the legal definition has become that way. I'll accept the term.
Right.
But when I think of AI, I generally think of things like large language models or the models that generative models that can make video and
Yeah.
stuff like that, rather than machine learning. And I think it has had a big impact. Not only are there the sort of little day-to-day things that have
Yeah.
changed that I use, but it also changes a little bit how you approach projects.
Really.
So if I need to build a classifier at a
Hmm.
company, so I want to classify a document or at both
Hmm.
as a video into certain categories, the old way would have been, okay, we need to gather all that data. So we need to manually go through hundreds, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, depends on the category of videos,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
label them all so that we can do machine learning.
Right.
Um, Now, and that could take weeks or months. There's often relabeling you have to do because it's quite
Yeah.
labeling is actually quite hard. But with AI, with like an LLM, you can just say classify this video into one of these categories, and it'll work 60, 70% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can have a prototype the same day that
Right.
demonstrates this value.
Yes.
You may still do it the old way. I think the old way the old way often gives better performance.
Sure.
It's very rare that just the LLM's result is actually good enough.
Mm.
But whenever you've been able to prototype something the same day you've had the thoughts, and then you can show it to people and go, like, I think we should build this. Here's the value. You can
Yes.
maybe experiment with it. Maybe it's really good in certain categories and not others, and you deploy that.
Mm.
But I think it's a really good prototyping tool as a sort of inside a data science team,
Yes.
to be able to just try things and see if it's valuable
Yes.
before you invest these months of effort to do it
Absolutely.
to the accuracy that you need.
Yes. Yes, no, it's a great point, and I hadn't thought of it that way, but it is a sort of it provides this Wizard of Ozing technique that was I'm sure you're familiar with. If I describe it, you might not have heard it called that particular thing, but in user interface design, is that rather than building a complete UI engineering, what have you, for something, is that you just and old school way, you basically design the interface on paper, and then you have a user come in and you basically have people standing there moving the different element. You prepared all the different elements of the UI, and as they press a button you kind of, so it's like Wizard of Ozing. There is absolutely no technology, there's no way you can ship that to production, but you can have the prototype some aspects of the experience for the user. And yes, no, we've done exactly that with LLMs, and I think lots of people are, and that has this, as you say, it avoids this huge upfront investment. It's a lot like the design sprints of Google. It's about being able to get that fast turnaround feedback. Yeah, no, brilliant.
Yeah,
It's
it's kind of like what Figma did to UI. Like the
yes,
fact that you could go beyond the paper and actually have something that looks real and you can click. It's
yes,
the same for data science. I no longer have to fake it and try and mock something up. I can actually just do it and show people. And yeah, I think that is very valuable. And it also gives you a hint of like how hard will this be? If you can get
yes,
to 60, 70% accuracy with an LLM,
yeah,
and you need 80, then it might be achievable to get that. But if you can
yes.
only get to like 10% with an LLM, you might be like, this is really hard.
Yes,
Um,
because of course you can do, if you get 60, 70%, maybe a bit of prompt engineering, might get you the rest of the way, or a bit of fine tuning, or it's another very useful tool in our
or other layers on top. We've done things where it's worked really well in certain situations, and then we've had to build like a small model that
right,
only does something specific. You kind of
right.
have this hybrid. Or we've had situations where, yeah, prompt engineering or sort of having building a mini agent workflow worked quite
Yes,
well.
yes,
Sometimes to do things that we never thought we would have been able to do.
yes,
Like we used it to identify clips in a video, like
right,
short topic focused snippets in a video.
yes,
We used LLMs for that. I mean, before that, you'd be looking at trying to train a transformer to do that, or like going on Hugging Face to like try
yes.
and find someone else that's done it and fine tune it. It just wouldn't have been a viable project for the size of company we were.
No,
Uh,
indeed.
but LLMs enabled us to do that project, which was very successful, and like people were very happy with what we did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's great. And also, I mean, I think often the folks in the product or the commercial side can be, I think, frustrated with engineers, data scientists, how long it takes, what's going on, all this, that, and the other. But part of it is for the people who are doing the business development, they just need to be able to kind of like explore the space of possible ideas. And
Mhm.
like, so the fact that we can offer and deliver something quickly that they can work out, oh, actually, now that I see this, I don't think this is gonna, no, our customers will not. Or they see it and they think, yes, yes, this is the one that thing that everybody wants. So that's, yeah, it's fantastic. Just to go back to, there's interesting what you said about the definition of AI. I mean, I think in my mind, the difference, I mean, machine learning was always, the sort of that side that's learned by increment, whereas there's good old fashioned AI, which like chess playing, expert systems, and all this. And I guess what I noticed over the years was that often people who were using the term AI seem to be using it in order to kind of pull the wool over. Well, I mean, outside of academia, I mean, I remember being in a business meeting in Japan with a startup, and they were like basically negotiating getting this thing done. And I remember that one of the technologist guys says, "Oh yeah, no, we're going to add a bit of AI in there just to make sure that." And I was just like, "You don't have any AI at this stage. This is a website. What are you talking about? You're talking about adding an index on the database or whatever it was." But yeah, it's really, I guess, but AI has sort of punctured the consciousness now, and these LLMs do seem to be doing something that are, fundamentally different than what we've seen before. So is the AI affecting you outside work? I mean, is your daily life now evolving in a way? You're consulting ChatGPT before every life decision, or is it just part of your work, really?
No, no, I use it day to day. Like I think there is a mix of usefulness. I think that a lot, especially what we saw at the beginning, was companies putting out, I think, really low effort features.
Yes.
So it was either chatbots or it was image generators. The first
Mm,
iteration of AI in Google Suite, I was really not impressed with.
mm,
It was basically a generate an image, and the image generator was awful as well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of lazy features, but now people are starting to think about useful features. And I do think when you search Google now, you get
Mm,
that AI summary.
you do, yeah.
That AI summary is generally very useful. It has
Mm, mm,
consequences for the economics of the internet, but
mm-hmm.
as a useful tool, that's very useful. And obviously, I think tools like Perplexity try and do a similar thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do find those things useful. I also have started doing things with. I will ask ChatGPT questions that are hard when like you're trying to. It's hard to put in a search.
Yes,
It might be a house thing. Like I
yes.
remember taking a picture of part of my roof, and I was like, I didn't know what to call this bit of the roof.
Right, right,
I took
right.
a picture
Yes.
of it, and it's like, what do you call this bit?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it told me, and then now I know how to search for it or talk about it. Or I had it recently with just my mother-in-law had a list of her mother's medication, and she
Okay.
didn't know what it all was.
Mm.
You can take a picture of that, of like the individual items with
Yes, yes,
ChatGPT.
yes.
It'll read it, and then it can tell you what it all is. Obviously, not used for medical reasons, but like
No,
someone just
no,
wants to
no.
pick up. Like these types of things are just little shortcuts everywhere, that are just immensely useful. And I use it for writing to an extent as well. Although I don't like using it to generate writing, because I quite like having my own style. I
Mm.
use it to be like, here's something I've written, tidy it up, like make minimal edits, maintain
Mm-hmm.
my style,
Mm-hmm.
but just like correct any spelling, punctuation,
Mm-hmm.
maybe structure it slightly differently. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it does that change, and I can read through it and I undo some of the changes. But I found that really useful as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's. I mean, I think that particularly the image side of it is extraordinary. Like you say, like we're taking the picture of the thing on the roof. I mean, and it is kind of mind-boggling to me, having followed AI, my PhD in neural networks, and it seemed to be incredibly slow progress. I mean, I think when we saw, for example, like was it IBM's Watson, doing really well on Jeopardy, that was kind of like one sort of slight watershed moment. But then it didn't seem to be able to actually generalize into anything that was of any daily utility. Like I think they had tried to hope that this was going to be great at providing medical advice or something, but that never really seemed to take off. And it seemed like, a bit like nuclear fusion. The promise was, oh yes, there'll be this amazing AI around the corner, but it just seems absolutely extraordinary that what seemed to be like you know a generic approach seems to have borne so much fruit. And of course, that there's all sorts of incredible feats of engineering and research and things that are being done. But I think we all thought that there was going to be lots and lots of expert systems that had been trained to do, like, there would you'd have to train the roof recognizing system completely separately from the medicine label recognizing thing. The idea that one model can kind of do it all just seems extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some huge innovations there. What obviously one of the biggest innovations was fairly simple in the idea that GPT-3 existed before ChatGPT, and
Yes,
it
yes.
was kind of just as capable, really. But
Mm,
the difference was it was hard to use for a
mm,
normal person.
mm,
And the innovation there was, well, let's train it to chat so that you don't have to like have this prompt where the prompt is really like part of the autocomplete message. It
mm,
was like
mm.
now I can just speak with it, and that was obviously a huge innovation that made it work for everyone.
Yes.
But I think one of the most surprising things with AI for me was the emergent learning, as you said,
Yes.
that
Yes.
if you just trained it with enough data and
Yes.
for long enough within a big enough model, suddenly it would learn the ability to translate. It would learn
Mm,
the ability to
mm.
do different things, emergent skills, rather than deliberately trying to
Yes.
train for those things. And I
Absolutely.
think that was, as you say, very unexpected and very significant because obviously it progressed further. Can it do get better and better if we go further? And it seems like to an extent we've plateaued on current architecture.
Yes.
And the data's dried up as well. If we had more
Yes.
data, it would help. And I don't think this is like the limit of AI by any means. It's just
No.
we had a really exponential growth. I think we'll probably slow down a bit, and we'll hit another spike when someone innovates again.
Well,
Uh,
yes, I'm almost certain that that's the case. Yeah, and it's interesting the idea of the emergence because there are some people and there are some papers that are sort of attack I don't know. I mean, I think they're kind of splitting hairs in some ways, and I agree. I mean, what was so striking to me was the change in ability that like I mean, what one well, I'll back up. I totally agree with you. The interface for ChatGPT and that like kind of like productization that was an extraordinary move and really well done. I think there was, I mean, but remember from my conversations with GPT-3, it was laughable in its attempt to generate comedy. That's another of my pet projects, but also, generating code. It was getting, like the chances, the majority of the time, it was just completely unusable. And for me, the biggest transition was, three, I think was it 3.5 or 4 originally, but using it, I think it was in was it maybe March 2023, that suddenly now the majority of the code thing was working. Not perfectly. I mean, this was still on small samples, but there definitely seemed to have been a fundamental transition in its ability to generate working code, which just seemed extraordinary to me. And at the time, yeah, it certainly felt like, oh my goodness, if 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 are going to come, on the heels of this, you know, it's going to be godlike within a few years. But as you point out, it's generally accepted that there's been level of plateaus, and now it's all this chain of thought reasoning and so on. But where do you see the future of AI? Not that anybody's got a crystal ball or can predict it, but how do you see it evolving over the next few years?
yeah, obviously, I'm not a researcher. I'm more of a. I sometimes um, describe it to people as I'm not the engineer building the large language model,
No,
of the F1 car.
no.
I'm the driver that knows how to use it and kind of knows the ins and
Mm,
outs and knows some problems with it and roughly
mm,
knows how it works, but couldn't rebuild it.
no.
Um, so I don't know exactly what they're working on, but it does seem to me that one of the things that dried up was the data. They've kind of
Mm,
trained the models on all the data that we have,
mm,
and they've cleaned it up, and they've
yes.
generated loads of their own data. So
Mm,
they've been paying people. All of the big companies have been paying people to literally generate like write answers to
yes.
questions, write
Yes.
code, and
Yes.
write answers to law exams, all of these different things to provide high quality data to train the model. It seems
Yes.
pretty clear that that LLMs are susceptible to garbage in, garbage out, just like all machine learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and there was some thoughts that you could use GPT-4 to generate loads of data to
Mm-hmm.
GPT-5 that and then use that better one to generate all the data for
Mm,
GPT-6. It seems like that's not the case, or at least it doesn't work quite as well, or there's
mm,
a limit.
mm, mm,
So I
mm.
don't know how far it'll go. I think we are waiting for the next innovation. I think we'll definitely see models getting slightly better,
Mhm,
but definitely a lot cheaper and a lot faster. I think that will
mm,
continue to happen as people optimize the existing.
yes,
So I think what we can rely on is we'll get a lot more good productization of AI
right,
over the next 2 years. I think it'll get cheaper, and then use cases will become more ubiquitous as it gets cheaper. It's
yes,
already got really cheap. If you look at how
yeah.
expensive the
Oh, it's
initial models
extraordinary.
we're
Yeah,
like 20 times cheaper than it
yes,
was, and a lot better performance.
yes,
I think that'll just continue and continue. So I'm quite positive for the future. I'm definitely nervous around audio and video models.
oh, really?
Well, more the potential for scamming. So like
Mm,
there's a whole
mm,
thing there around how you can now accurately replicate someone's voice.
yes,
There was a bunch of bank security that depended on voice recognition. Your
mm,
family needs to know that you could call them and it's not you.
yes,
And to an extent, now you can even with deepfake technology, you can jump on a call and pretend to be someone else with it real
right,
time masking
right,
you. So there is some nervousness around the technology is moving so fast.
yes,
The world doesn't have time to adapt to that.
mm,
I think that's true economically as well. That's been a lot of the fear with LLMs that it could replace jobs, and we don't have it. Normally, innovation doesn't happen that fast. It seems like it's been really fast in terms of how
Yeah,
fast it's rolled out.
yeah,
So I'm a bit nervous on that side, but I do see lots of potential, and I think it as the real changes over the next couple of years will definitely be in productization. There'll be lots more products that we use that leverage AI that
mm,
aren't just simple chatbots. And maybe there'll be an innovation, but the thing with innovations is we could have a massive innovation tomorrow. It could
right.
be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Who knows when the next one will be? I personally think it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. Probably in the
Mm,
years time frame rather than the 5 to 10 years.
sure.
But it could be tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, or it may have happened, and it's about to drop
Yeah.
real soon. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating topic. I mean, just a few threads. You were talking about going back to the emergence and the translation ability popping up. I mean, I remember the introduction of Google Translate, which I think is now seen as being not as good as what the LLMs do. But I think there was a watershed, probably a decade and a half ago, where a lot of the approaches to language had been rule based, and this was this extraordinary thing that Google Translate, I think the technology that originally underpinned it, was based not on lots of very detailed rules for language, but it was based upon having, huge amounts of data. And there does seem to be something special about getting huge quantities of data. And I think that's part of what's so unexpected to me about the AI is that now we've got this thing that's doing language in a robust way. I mean, that was always the selling point of neural networks was kind of graceful degradation, that rather than these brittle rule systems that they would, and that idea that we can now say, right, I want you to take this poem and this pirate shanty and this, and redo the Declaration of Independence in this style. That it can do that just seems absolutely extraordinary. And it seems in some ways both very human and alien at the same time. I mean, I guess in terms of the data, I keep thinking about how part of also, and it seems to me, I would imagine with ChatGPT, part of the desire to get it out there is that, and then the huge land grab is now all of the communication that we're doing with I just want to should be able to work out back of envelope. Like, I guess we've got this big dump of what is it, the last 20, 30 years of all of the internet, and all of that, however much it is. But the number of people using the internet now has kind of gone through the roof, right? And so is there an extent to which the daily usage of that data provides something for the next stage? I'm not sure, but yeah, but so within this, and you talk about the rate of acceleration, brings me on to one of my favorite topics, which is of course the singularity. I mean, I've got on my shelf Russell Norvig, Artificial Intelligence: A Modern Approach. I think it's Peter Norvig is, famous guy here. He poo-poos any sense that the technology, the rate of innovation is accelerating. He's like, it's always been doing this. The people in the 17th century, suddenly there are all these tall ships, and this, it's basically this kind of like idea of the sort of future shock is just always there. But do you give any credence to, you know, like, I mean, you are, I think, sensibly, like most people, expecting there to be more innovations. But do you see us, in 10 and 20 and 30 years, it's still being the same sort of thing? It feels like we could be on the cusp of, intelligence that might start approaching or even exceeding what humans have, or does that seem like science fiction to you?
I think it depends how you define intelligence, like the
Mm,
ability to answer a question or have some sort of reasoning
mm,
or just a generality. Like I'm smarter than ChatGPT in a small number of ways.
mm,
And I might be a lot smarter than it in a small number of ways,
mm-hmm,
but it's smarter than me in ways that I never will be. So it can have the breadth, right? It can be good at everything.
mm-hmm,
I can be good at specific things. And
right.
it's still going to struggle with things that humans find very, very good. I do think there's an innovation there around. I don't think you can just replace a person. Like people say,
No.
like replace a developer. Like a developer's job isn't just writing
Mm,
code. There's a lot that needs to happen there to make it literally be able to like replace a developer. And because a
right.
developer doesn't just pick up tickets, do the ticket, pick up the next ticket, do the ticket. There's more to it than that.
Mm, mm,
Um, so I do think there's an innovation need, or probably multiple innovations needed there to actually get that. And it's like nuclear fusion. It seems around the corner
right. Just around the
constantly,
corner.
and
Yeah.
it's just we just need a few new things. And it might be. I do feel like that. I do feel like the rate of innovation has sped up.
Hmm.
Every innovation is built upon the past, so like
Yeah.
you'd expect it to increase. But I think the thing with AI is more that it how fast it rolled out.
Yeah.
Like, how long did it take the internet to get huge, to get like the number of users that AI
Hmm.
has?
Hmm.
AI got so many users so quickly. Every company adopted it really quickly. They didn't
Yes.
always do good things with it,
No.
but the adoption of it, I think, is what sets it apart from the others, where everyone looked to adopt it really quickly. Uh,
Mm.
I think it like almost overnight, it became a big deal for everyone to
Yeah.
look at. And I think a lot of other innovations took more time, but that's because innovations build on innovations. AI wouldn't have done that if the internet didn't exist. The internet and how connected we all are and how fast information can spread enabled that. Um, so
Absolutely.
of course, we're going to innovate faster. I think each technology helps you do that.
Yes, no, I'm in complete agreement with you there, and it's well, the thing I struggle with is how many clever people seem to talk about, you know, the idea that the AIs will never be as intelligent or adaptive as humans. I mean, I would completely agree with you that we haven't obviously got it now, and there's further innovations that are needed. They might be just around the corner. They might not. But yeah, I mean, there's this big topic of AI alignment, and it's almost like some of the people who talk about the AI doomers, and they're kind of, I think, in maybe art circles, they're kind of poo-pooed as these are like COVID conspiracy people, or it's like flat earthers, or what have you. Do you give any? Is there any value? I mean, do you see any possible catastrophic scenarios coming from the rate of development that we're having in this area? Is there a dangerous genie here that needs to be put back in the bottle?
Yeah, I remember talking about this like briefly before. I think it's interesting. I think the world has to adapt, right? Ultimately, to any changes that happen. Uh,
Mm.
if they launch tomorrow, someone that literally could replace the jobs of many people,
Mm.
um, you could have a situation where unemployment becomes huge.
Right.
Um, but that obviously could lead to some sort of disaster. There has to be some shift in the economy,
Right.
etc.
Right.
But I think what's rather than getting deep into that, what's interesting about that scenario is if you did have that, there are some huge problems affecting the world right now,
Mm.
like climate change.
Right.
Climate change could potentially mean everything is going to be a real big issue in 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If we had like AI that was that smart,
Yes.
scientific progress in theory would be hugely progressed. And we
Considerable.
might actually be able to solve things like climate change with advanced technology like carbon capture that is obviously
Right.
far better than we can imagine now.
Right.
So you've kind of got, I think you can imagine the doomsday scenario. You can
Right.
also imagine how it's going to absolutely revolutionize science and healthcare. I
Yes.
do even what we've seen now with, I think probably one of the best examples of useful things coming out of AI is actually the stuff DeepMind's been doing with protein folding.
Right.
Like that,
Right.
it's unbelievable the value that is there that is waiting to be mined by researchers. You've
Yeah.
got hundreds of thousands of protein structures there. You can also predict new ones. Like the
Mm.
consequences for medicine and in general are huge, but it's going to take a lot of time to deal with that. If you
Mm.
could have AI researchers that could immediately go in and deal with that,
Mm.
I think progress could be exponential. So I think you've got both sides of that argument, and
Yeah.
in reality, we have to deal with what happens. Obviously, a world where no one has a job doesn't work.
Mm.
It does like the economics don't work. But yeah, we kind of have to. We should be having the discussions now,
Yes.
but we don't know really what's going to happen, do we? I just hope that we have some time to adapt to it, which I think we will.
Yes. Yes. I didn't. No, you're absolutely right there. The I think that the change is inevitable, and technology has kept on sort of forcing humans to adapt and do different jobs, and we're doing very different jobs, as a result of the technology change. And it would be foolish of us to think that technology will now stay still and allow us to stay in the same jobs that we were in before. Yeah, it's I mean,
Most jobs now, right, are better than going down to the mine 6 days a week and
indeed,
mining coal by hand and all the health problems that come from it and getting not enough money to actually buy the
yes.
food you need for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, no, no, indeed so, indeed so. I mean, and I mean, I think there's absolutely, I mean, any number of startups at the moment trying to work out how to, replace junior developers and mid-level developers and senior developers and data scientists and so on. So I think it's the change is definitely coming. Yeah, the thing I still wrestle with is why some of our leading minds seem to think that it couldn't go bad. I don't think that it necessarily will go bad, but just I think, yeah, I mean, I'll have to try and get Stephen Wolfram on the podcast and see if we can work out what's going on there.
I mean, they've
Yeah,
got a certain incentive to think otherwise, and maybe probably a certain incentive to think they can control it.
yes,
Um, but then they can't, right? They've already demonstrated that even if OpenAI or another company come out with an amazing innovation,
mm,
it's only and they don't share it. They try and keep a lid on it. It's only a matter of time before Claude or
yeah,
DeepSeek or
absolutely.
Gemini also stumble upon that innovation. Um, so I don't think you can really keep a lid on it.
No,
It's going to happen somewhere. The only thing we can do is hopefully try and keep it open. I do really like that Meta and DeepSeek and others have
yeah,
released open versions of their models. I think that's really important that one company doesn't one
yes.
or a handful of companies control this technology. Yeah, I don't think we can keep a lid on it.
No, no, I think it's yeah, it's. I mean, it's a fascinating time to be alive. I mean, that ancient Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. I didn't know that I was going to get to see it in my lifetime. It is fascinating. I was thinking, we've heard all about the technology side from you. Do you have other passions in life besides the technology, which you are so passionate about?
Yeah. So the main thing I do now is rock climbing. So
Ah,
that's one of my passions. I do find that I became a parent a few years ago, and
congratulations.
so I think when you become a parent, your availability to do lots of hobbies
Yeah.
decreases. So yeah, have a few small ones like that. So yeah, I am passionate about data and that type of thing. But yeah, try to do some rock climbing and obviously try and be a good parent as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, that leads us into, our last question, which is, I mean, given all those things, what does it all mean? How would you answer the question of the life, the universe, and everything?
What does it all mean? I don't think we can answer what it means, but what it maybe it's more what should we do? And I do kind of ascribe to the idea that we should try and have the world be a better place for us being in it than it was before. And
Yes.
that might just be like you don't have to have invented the iPhone or something like that.
Mhm.
You just need to have had, a positive impact on those around you. So what does it all mean? I think we're here to enjoy it and
Mm.
to try and also help other people enjoy it, leave the world a little bit better than we found it.
Fantastic. What a wonderful sentiment to end on. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you, Ryan. Is there any of your stuff that you're doing that we can promote? Is there somewhere people can go to find out more about what you're working on, your side projects, or anything at all?
Yeah, so I share a lot of leadership and sort of data content on LinkedIn. So you can find
Hmm.
me there at Ryan Varley. I also have a blog that I'm starting to write at dataleadership.ai.
Awesome.
There's also a data leadership handbook there that I'm starting to write as well.
Wonderful.
So if you go to that, you can find links to everything else.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure to get that in the show notes. And well, thanks everyone for listening. Big thanks to Ryan for being on the podcast. That wraps up this episode of Rebel AI. If you'd like to be on the podcast or join the Rebel AI community, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Sam Joseph, sam@neurogrid.com. My email will be in the show notes, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks again so much, Ryan. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was good.